All right. Well, welcome, Anna. It's good
Thank
to see
you.
you and to
You
everyone
too.
else out there in our school community world. I wanted to share just a little bit of what I have been through on a couple of cases and situations I've been supporting over the last 30 days. And I was just sharing with Anna that if I don't get this somehow recorded or journaled or on paper, I'm going to forget what the real full impact of the situation was and why it became so important to me
Mm.
to share this with you. We've already talked. If you look into the library and some of the previous posts, you've seen pieces of information on the importance of doing estate planning and having all your legal documents and financial documents in place. And these two cases that I have been heavily involved with over the last 30 days just brought it to light. And each one is very different, but yet speak to this great need we have in this time of life, to whether you're 35 years old or whether you're 85 years old, to
Mhm.
make sure you have the appropriate legal and financial documents in place, and you have express your wishes clearly to those that you have identified that you want to have them speak, on your behalf or handle your affairs.
Mhm.
So the first case and situation, young person, I've known her for about 10 years, actually met her through assisting her with a longtime elderly family member that came to me through what is called Adult Protective Services. There had been concern about another professional person in another community potentially abusing her, neglecting her. And so she came into my county, and a new adult protective case was opened up. And so I met the two of them through that referral. So that elderly person passed away a number of years ago. She was a real sweetheart, loved working with her. And then this one gal, we've stayed in contact over the years. Well, she ended up in a crisis and had to go into the hospital a few weeks ago and have surgery and a procedure. And she calls me from her hospital bed and she says, Marsh, I need you. And I said, okay, whatever it is, right? And
Yeah.
she had told me that she had put together a power of attorney for healthcare. They're sometimes known as advance directives,
Mhm.
and that I was her key person, an agent. Yeah. And I was like going, okay, we've talked about this many times over coffee, over lunch, over breakfast, but
Right.
okay, you finally did that. Great. Would have been nice to have known that before you ended up in the hospital bed, but that's
Right.
okay. But she could not find that latest document.
Oh.
And there was no way she was coming out of that hospital bed. So she allowed the doctors and other people at the hospital to talk to me. Well, come to find out, realize the situation was very serious, that the doctor was very clear that she could not go back home with the condition that she had. She could not be on her own anymore. And it really wasn't a good live much longer. It was a very critical situation.
Wow.
She came out of the hospital into assisted living, which was very difficult for her because she had lived
Mhm.
alone, liked her own privacy. Even a small 6-person assisted living facility or board and care is is not necessarily the most quiet, restful place to be. She
Mhm.
wanted desperately to go back home, but it was very clear she could not do so. So I went in, spoke to her, well, number one, she didn't know where to tell me the document was that actually had me number one on the list for her healthcare
Wow.
decision making, right? So that was
Yeah.
number one because I didn't have a copy of it. So number one message, if you put those kind of documents in place, talk to the person who you have indicated is your power of attorney, your agent, the one who's going to
Mhm.
speak on your behalf, and make sure they've got copies of it so they can, if asked by a healthcare provider or others, they can produce it and say, yeah, I am her agent to speak on her behalf. So that became a problem. So we had to sort of quickly redo that, find a couple witnesses. And because she was in assisted living, we were able to do that with just a couple of witnesses, not necessarily notarized. So that worked out okay. But then she immediately took a downward turn after we had had a couple conversations. And I'm sorry to say, as of yesterday morning, she did pass away.
Oh, wow.
Well, in the midst of all this, she gave me the okay to enter her apartment. She has a car, but with all the transition between the emergency room visit and the acute care hospital stay and surgery, she lost her purse. She doesn't know where her purse is. So I have no photo ID. I have no insurance cards. I have no keys. I have no keys to the apartment. I have no keys to her storage units. I have no keys to the car.
Wow.
And the only really legal document I have is a power of attorney for healthcare, which has nothing to do with all that other stuff I just mentioned, her apartment, the car, her storage units, etc. Thank God she had spoken to the property manager, so I was able to go get a spare key and get into her apartment. She's a hoarder.
Oh, no.
She's a hoarder. And so when I opened the door, it literally was like a pathway this way, a pathway this way, flies.
Oh,
And by
wow.
the time I started cleaning out the leftover food and bowls and different things, ran into a cockroach or two, which of course was of concern to the property management because they
Yeah.
didn't want infestation to start. So I went ahead, had to take 10 huge bags of stuff out to the trash, couldn't salvage anything. It just had to get out of there. So we would cut down on the smell and the bugs and, critters
Yeah.
and flies and everything else happening. So dealt with that, continued to work with hospice that had come on board to see if we could find her purse. Could never find her purse at the hospital. Not indicated that, she had the purse. So in the midst of all this, as I did continue to talk to her, she gave me permission to go ahead and get her apartment cleared out. So I'm able to work with a team that I've worked with many times that are excellent, excellent folks. And we're going to be able to get her apartment cleared out. Excuse me. Most of the stuff will just probably be trashed. She never married. She has no children. Has a couple of cousins that I know that she was very close to. Really didn't know any of her other friends from her work that she had done for many, many years. Had no bank statements,
Wow.
didn't know what was going on financially for her.
Mhm.
And the stress, I think this is why I wanted to record this before when it was still fresh in my mind. The stress of trying to follow her wishes and do what she wanted to do in
Mhm.
terms of saving a couple family items that were really important to her, talking to cousins all the way back on the East Coast, having them, thank goodness, confirm her final wishes of wanting to be cremated and scattered in the ocean, but then having to figure out, well, who's going to pay for that?
Right.
Because how do we access any of her funds? Now, thank God she had signed some checks for me. So I was able to handle some payments and get some things resolved with a funeral home. So I'm so grateful that she took time before she got too bad to just
Mhm.
trust me enough to sign some checks for me so
Yeah.
I could deal with what had to be dealt with, because she knew full well that she
Mhm.
hadn't made all the arrangements, all the plans. So things like, where's the pink slip to the car? Does she have a will? Uh, is there life insurance? All those issues are still up in the air.
Wow.
And if I can't figure out a way to deal with her car, the car remains in the parking lot in the apartment complex. And after the legally required time, the property manager will just have to hire a tow truck. They will come in and they will salvage the car. And here's the thing, the car probably has a value of about 10,000,
Hmm.
about 8 to 10,000, I've been able to find out.
Yeah.
So my point, she's young.
Mhm.
She's young. She's not 85. She's just over 65, right? And she did the healthcare piece, but
Right.
she didn't do the financial piece.
Mhm.
So it leaves someone like me who now has to deal with ambulance companies that want to get payment for the copays. I have to tell them, uh, uh, there's either no
Right.
money or I don't know how to access the money. There's nobody else. She doesn't
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
anybody else. And so it's just so stressful that, I wish I look back on all of our conversations over how many years, 10 years, and she knew what I was dealing with her elderly friend before her elderly friend passed away. And you would have thought she would have slowed down and and put everything in place for herself,
Right.
knowing what could happen.
Yeah.
And it's not like she was not educated and aware and knowledgeable, but she never slowed down to do it. So I think looking at her situation, her case, it's again pounding that drum for everybody, right? That just
Right.
says, please do it. Do it, do it, do it. Even if you're a renter, you don't need a full estate plan. If you're a renter, if your estate is a small estate, here in the state of California, a small estate is, I believe it's still like 150,000 or less in
Oh,
value.
wow.
That's considered a small estate. And so you don't need a $3,000 estate plan, but you do need, your power of attorneys in place, designating people, giving them the power, the ability to talk to the bank, handle your investment accounts, talk to your pension plan, just to wrap all those pieces together to really
Mhm.
close out your estate, which is just your life,
Right.
right?
Right.
And to do something with the car and the apartment. I mean, like I say, one of the only ways that I think I've been able to deal anything about the apartment is, number one, she did put a call into the property manager. Thank goodness. And it just
Right.
happened to be a place where I had been a renter for a few years, and the same
Wow.
property manager was there. So I think I got blessed with that one. The car issue, I don't know what I'm going to do. I
Yeah.
don't know. It just may sit there in the parking lot at the apartment complex until they can hire the tow truck to come tow it away. But that's sad because she loved animals. And what a great gift it would have been to have been able to then sell the car and take those funds and donate it to a local nonprofit in her memory.
Right.
So
Right.
her case is simply, I don't care how old you are. Once you are an adult, once you have any level of financial, assets, as well as just contracts that you've signed, like to rent an apartment, buy a car, you've got a car. Minimal that may be, you still need power of attorney for healthcare, power of attorney for finances, and you need some kind of minimal, it can be handwritten, will, stating what do you want to have done with some of your things? What would your wishes be? And it's just because if you don't do those things, at least in my state, and I think it's true pretty much so in every state, and I'm here in California, is that if you don't have those things in place, hands are tied. Hands are tied. And yes, do I push the envelope at times? Yeah, I do. You try to stretch and push that envelope, but, I'm not going to go to jail or go to court, over some of these situations. So it's like, no, thank you very much. I like my life the way it is. So, you just have to be mindful. Once you're an adult, you got to grow up and be an adult and take care of the legal and financial worries. Now, my second case, which is totally different than hers, married couple. The wife has traumatic brain injury. She can't remember things for long, but she's competent in the moment. She's competent. She understands as long as you don't overwhelm her with too much information at one time. Her husband, he was an attorney, and she was a nurse by training. Well, he had to go in and have back surgery a month ago. Now, they're both in their 70s, and anytime you have any kind of major medical work done, the older that you get, you're just not going to bounce back as quickly as a younger person. And I've had to remind some of his caregivers that point in the last few weeks. It just takes time.
Yeah.
That anesthesia went into every, millions of cells throughout the body, not just one place, kind of thing. And it just takes time to get rid of all that anesthesia effect, So anyway, they lived together in their own home. And suddenly he, who was really her caregiver because of her situation, ends up incapable, of making decisions, overseeing her, making sure she's doing okay. And on top of that, while yes, they do have legal documents in place, and he even identified fiduciaries for each of them. And there's a power of attorney for healthcare for his wife, but not for him. And the wife, she never handled finances. He handled all the finances. So here we go again. She thinks those things are someplace, not sure where they are. Let's go look in his office. Well, what about the bank statements? Well, here's the file drawer with the bank statements. Well, where's the last 2-3 months worth of bank statements? Oh, I don't get those anymore. Well, what I found out was, yeah, she was getting them. She probably didn't realize totally what they were. And like she said, I probably destroyed them, kind of thing. And then all these critical decisions had to be made for the husband. As he came out of surgery, he's going into rehab. Well, somebody's got to sign all the paperwork, signing him into rehab and giving permission for care to be provided. And every time they make a medication change in rehab, there has to be notification made to that power of attorney for finance or for healthcare or whoever the decision maker is when he can't think clearly for himself. Because at this point, he's got a little bit of short-term memory loss, right? So traumatic brain injury, can't hold data for more than about 10 minutes max, has to write everything down, can't overwhelm with too much information. He is not totally with it and showing signs of short-term memory issues and not certain what's going on. And he needs medical care and he needs support and assistance. So it's like, oh, I'll take him home. Well, how are you going to care for him? He's twice your size. How are you going to care for him at home when he can't even yet get out of bed because of the pain he's experiencing as he's trying to recover from this back surgery? And that situation, I was actually brought into it by a financial advisor of the wife. But the husband handled his own finances because it was a second marriage, second marriage for both of them. They have children, each their own children. So here I am having to try to support the wife, then having to try to figure out with the rehab center what the next steps for him were. The wife kept giving verbal okay for them to speak to me, but they really needed something in writing from the wife that it was okay for them to talk to me about the husband. So we finally had to put that into writing. And then where does he go when he's done at rehab? And so after 20 some odd days, Medicare was ready to say, okay, he's stopped progressing. He's now plateaued. The chances of him getting better is going to be a long-term thing. So Medicare is not going to cover that rehab anymore. So we then had to go about trying to find a place for him to go next that wasn't necessarily home, because he needed 24-hour care. He needed a lift because he could not get out of bed and transfer from a bed to a wheelchair, the wheelchair to a toilet, and then other personal hygiene, bathing, and etc. And so this was a major issue. And it was like everyone kept saying, who's the decision maker? Wow. She has traumatic brain injury.
Yeah.
Is she viewed as competent or not? He doesn't know what's going on. All he wants to do is go home, which we all want to go home, right? He wants to go home. He can't go home. He's not fully understanding that he can't go home yet.
Right.
And it's like, okay, where are all of these legal documents that supposedly this couple has in place? Where's the advance directives? I kept saying, where are the copy? Where's the estate plan? Where's the power of attorney for finances? Because she doesn't know how to handle the checkbook and what the balance is and how to pay bills and what bills they've got coming in, because he did all that.
Wow.
So even on transporting him from the rehab into assisted living, there's a bill to be paid. How does that get paid? And the transport company is now calling me because the rehab center told them to call me, right?
Oh, wow.
And so I laugh, and I know this maybe sounds like it's no big deal, but here I am trying to be as supportive as I can, but also recognizing the fact that, okay, I'm getting these messages that there are legal documents in place. Well, I don't want to overstep my legal boundaries. I have no legal standing. I just came in to try to assist when a situation came to light for her financial advisor that, hey, oh, she's really going to need help and support. I know
Yeah.
who I can call, and I'm happy, I'm happy to assist. But it's like, oh my gosh, I'm
Wow.
finding myself in a situation of having to figure out housing and care for someone that
Yeah.
I have no power over, right? No legal authority to be
Right.
doing this.
Right.
And And so eventually, I did find an estate plan. I did find the name of a couple of fiduciaries. The wife has her own attorney. He has his own attorney. So this married couple have two different attorneys
Yeah.
and two different fiduciaries. Now, you want to talk about providing confusion and the need for significant coordination between people that may know of each other or know each other, but they're maybe holding different documents. So while I'm finding an estate plan from, say, 2022, 2023, well, then I'm hearing that the husband had recently talked to this other attorney, and there might be a 2025 or 26 document,
Oh, wow.
right? Which would
Yeah.
supersede anything I'm finding in the house. So it means that I end up having to do a lot of sleuthing work. I often say part of what I do, I'm just a detective. That's all I'm doing, you know. Excuse me. I'm looking for documents. I'm trying to figure out, the money flow. I'm trying. In fact, I took the wife into the bank, and she was able to communicate very clearly with the banker what her needs were. So he was able to give her information. And then I did confirm with the banker. I said, I do understand that her husband's affairs are separate in his own accounts and only his name. So just tell me, what is it that she would need to bring in order to be able to access his funds to help pay for his care. And of course, that required a power of attorney, right?
Yeah.
So was he competent enough at this point to give power of attorney? Well, if so, then we've got to find an attorney to come in and fill out a power of attorney form where the wife could take that into the bank, begin to access his accounts in order to pay for his care. Well,
Wow.
yeah. That was my comment. Wow, what do I do now? So it literally, thank goodness, we were able to track down the two fiduciaries, like I say, different one for him, different one for her. And we were able to track down the wife's attorney, who we think he did speak to. So slowly, very slowly, we're pulling this team together to be able to move ahead with decision making. And we have yet to figure out what really is going to happen. And between the husband and wife right now, well, he's now 5 minutes from home instead of 30 minutes from home. So that's a blessing. Much easier for her to have friends help her because she can't drive anymore. Help her get 5 minutes away to go see him each day. And first had them committed to moving into the assisted living facility with her husband but he's at a slightly higher level of care right now, so they can't really be in the same apartment unless
Mhm.
she wants to, move into that higher level of care. That impacts the finances, that impacts all the documents we have to pull together for her in order to get her moved into a licensed level of care. I mean, it's just so, you know, trying to deal with those issues, getting her doctor on board, bringing her doctor up to speed, making sure we get her documents filled out for the facility so she can even move in there. And then between
Mhm.
the two of them, they keep flip-flopping. They keep flip-flopping. One moment it's like, no, we're going to both be here in the facility. We can be together here. Okay, that's great. Let's do that. And then the next moment is, no, I think I can stay at home. I'm just fine. And I'll just go
Wow.
see him every day. And then the next moment, it's like, Marcia, I really want to bring him home. He just wants to come home. Do
Oh,
we have the
wow.
money for that? Can you help me bring him home? So we're literally all over the map in
Yeah.
terms of between the two of them, right? And all this stuff for both of them, they want to see it all happen now.
Of
Well,
course.
I really have no legal authority now that I found out there are two fiduciaries and there
Yeah.
is some level of estate plan in place. I just don't know whether I've got the most current one and who I should be talking to.
Right.
It's just like, ah. So my message on this case is, oh, what's the bottom line on this case? Again, particularly if you have what I would say is a special needs spouse or child or someone that you're responsible for,
Mhm.
you have got to make sure you've got immediate access to whoever might walk through the door, that they have access to the most current paperwork, the most current power of attorneys for healthcare, the most current power of attorneys for finances, and they need to know where can they find that most current estate plan
Mhm.
that will map out more of the wishes and beneficiary information and where the assets are and all this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Again, very complicated, very complicated. And it's just, again, that message, great, you've got things done. Now put them together in a place where at least one other person, maybe two other people, know
Yeah.
where those documents are
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
know who they can speak to even say, hey, I have your client, Joe Smo, that
Mhm.
I have been working with, and he really needs you. He needs you. He
Right.
needs you as the attorney. He needs you as his power of attorney, you know. So here he is. Let's
Wow.
work together and let's, move forward, right? Because
Yeah.
I feel like I'm stuck. I'm
Mhm.
stuck. I don't
Mhm.
want to be overstepping boundaries again or doing something in a decision making authority position over someone else's life when I really don't have that authority,
Right.
right?
Right.
So
Wow.
yeah, I've said worse things over the last 30 days, but wow's a good one. Wow's a
I'm
good
trying to
one.
keep it clean, Marcia.
Me too, me too. So, these two cases have just shown me once again that
Mhm.
all of the information that I share with people about getting your legal and financial house in good order
Mhm.
has just brought it all to the top again. And it's like, please do that. Please don't be cavalier about it. Don't brush it off. Don't say, yeah, I'm going to do it. And then you don't take the next 2 weeks or 30 days, whatever you need to
Mhm.
get it done, to get it done. And it is
Yeah.
so well worth the money, particularly if you have a large estate, you own real property, that immovable, property, whether it be bare land or buildings or your own home or rentals or whatever. You just have got to pay attention to it.
Yeah. Yep.
So I'll be quiet now that I shared both of those case studies. And any reaction to all of that,
Ugh,
Anna? Questions?
it's I mean, both those cases really hit home because you have the extremes, but at the end of the day, it all came down to just those documents and notifying somebody of how to find them. And this could have all been like so much smoother. So like you're
Oh, yeah.
really doing this and putting these documents in place is really a gift to who
Yes.
is going to be in charge or who's going to be able to make those
Yes.
decisions. Whether
Yes.
you're, you know, trying to get long-term care or whether, you pass, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Um,
Yep.
it's, yeah, your two cases really, they had an impact, a big impact.
Yeah.
So is there I feel like people, myself included, stay away from those things because, it's scary. And we all think we're going to live till, we're 102 type thing. And if you don't know what it entails, it's complicated. Is it really that complicated, or is there an easy way to be able to, for the average person like myself, to just get these documents done? Um,
Mhm.
that's not going to cost
Yeah.
$10,000. How do we
Yeah.
how do we access that?
Yeah. I personally, having done this kind of work for over 40 years and had to deal with all these kind of documents and then changes in documents over that period of time because the regulations do change. It's really not that complicated, and you can keep it very low cost. It just
Okay.
depends on each person's individual situation.
Okay.
So the power of attorney for power of attorney for healthcare,
Hmm.
those documents, you can usually pull those off, your state website.
Okay.
Here in California, all you have to do is Google, California Advanced Directive for Healthcare or California Power of Attorney for Healthcare, and you will find legally recognized and approved documents that you can print out, you can fill them out. You used to have to get them notarized, only notarized. Now you just need two witnesses, you know,
Okay.
and the witnesses are just literally saying, oh yeah, the person who is making this document is who they say they are, kind of thing. That's all they're witnessing.
Okay.
And then what is really important on a healthcare directive, I always encourage people to talk to their primary care doctor and talk to the doctor about what you're doing and what you would like to do with your advance directive, because the doctor then can answer questions and tell you a little bit more about some of those decisions about, I want hydration or I don't. I want tube feeding, nutrition to be provided or I don't. I
Hmm.
want CPR to be done or I
Hmm.
don't.
Hmm.
Um, the older we get, statistically, we know that doing CPR, whether it's physical manual compression or even through the paddles on our chest, the
Hmm.
outcomes are not as good as when we're
Hmm.
younger. So to have a conversation with your doctor so you understand the decisions that you're making and the direction that you're giving your agent or your attorney, right,
Hmm.
to speak on your part. And when I say attorney, it's just whoever you've identified as your agent to speak
Right.
on your behalf when you cannot. So that one is not that difficult. Yeah, it's difficult topics for a lot of us to talk about because we all think we're
Mhm.
immortal or the car accident isn't going to happen to us, or
Right.
when we're out on the bike trail riding our bike, we're not the one that's going to go flying off our bike and have a major concussion.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, we're immortal. Nothing's going to happen to us until,
Or
we're well over whatever age. Anyway, and then once you get your document in place, you really need to make sure that person you've identified gets a copy of it
Mhm.
and that you've also had a conversation with them. Particularly if you're going to ask them to follow your wishes, which legally they're supposed to follow your wishes, not what their
Right.
biases are or their wishes.
Right.
So you need to have the conversation, and it's a hard conversation for most of us to have about what you expect them to do and whether or not you want to be kept alive or not kept alive in certain circumstances, right? And I
Right.
always tell everybody, even though you go into by ambulance to an emergency room and maybe you've said, I don't want, treatment, I don't want this, I don't want that. Well, doggone it, they took my mom in and they did this and they did that. And I said, yes, but you have the power of attorney, right? Yes. And mom didn't want that.
Mhm.
Okay. You can go in now and have the conversation with the treatment team, with the medical team, and they can withdraw treatment based on you being the decision maker for mom and
Okay.
very clearly having the documents right there for them to see where
Yeah.
mom said, I don't want this.
Yeah.
So, and so I have seen medical teams. Some are still skittish. They don't want to be sued. So,
Right.
and I get it. I understand. But most medical teams I've worked with these days, they will withdraw treatment if they
Okay.
know that the family's not fighting with one another. Everybody's on the same page. Those that are living after mom maybe passes will not turn around and sue them. I
Yeah.
mean, all of that enters into the picture a bit, of course, in the medical realm. On the financial side, you can find currently approved, what I'm going to call generic power of attorneys for finances, which
Mhm.
again, they meet the letter of the law for the
Mhm.
state, but they're generic. And
Right.
so they may or may not fully meet your concern or your situation on the financial side. So I always encourage people on the financial power of attorney,
Mhm.
find an attorney or a paralegal that you can work with. There are low cost paralegal services, attorney services that will help you. Just make sure that on the financial power of attorney, you've got your bases covered
Okay.
and it really speaks to your unique situation.
Mhm.
That's to me the most important thing. The other thing is to recognize that a lot of financial institutions, banks, as well as investment,
Mhm.
houses, advisors, and such, um, they've got attorneys, and their
Right.
attorneys have drawn up forms, and they like their own forms because their attorneys have approved those forms. And so a lot of times you'll walk in with a power of attorney for finances that's a legitimate document, it's a legal
Mhm.
document, but the bank says, no, we don't like that one. We really need to have our own power of attorney form signed. So I recommend always that depending upon where you do your banking,
Mhm.
is go in and talk to the bank and see, send in what you're thinking of signing off on as a
Mhm.
general power of attorney and see if the bank will accept it and acknowledge it. And to do that before the crisis hits,
Right.
obviously, when you
Right.
can be the one who's the owner, of the account and you can just get real clear real fast with those
Right.
financial institutions. Um, when it comes to just a will and testament that spells out, who you are, who your spouse is or isn't, your children, et cetera, laying out what you want to have happen with certain of your possessions or et cetera. I've seen a lot of well done, handwritten, wills. But
Hmm.
the more complex, the more uh, big money, if I can put it that way, the bigger money, the
Hmm.
bigger estates, those over 150,000 anyway, here in California. It again is a document, your will, that you may want to have an attorney or paralegal's assistance with. So you know how to be very clear in your statements,
Hmm.
and that the statements are consistent with what you've done, particularly with your power of attorney for finances. Now, I don't immediately have an issue with someone having a different person doing healthcare decision making than doing financial decision making, but
Hmm.
stop and think what happens if those two people don't know each other, and if they can't coordinate. You've given someone decision making to be your healthcare decision maker, where you're going to
Hmm.
end up being housed, living, maybe in a facility, et cetera, et cetera. But that person has no control over the finances. Another
Okay.
person has control over your finances. So this person over here with the healthcare decision making says, hey, it's going to cost 10 grand a month.
Yeah.
Can you pay that bill? And this person says no. And you're saying over here, well, this is the best place where this person's going to get the care they need. It's 10 grand a month. I can't find anything less. No, I'm not going to approve a $10,000 month. You get my point?
Oh,
You
yes.
could end
Yes.
up with someone who's doing healthcare decision making with the financial decision maker, and they end up in conflict.
Right.
So you have
Right.
to take that into account as well.
Okay.
So I am always one that will err on the more conservative side of saying seek professional help and input. But do feel, number one, look for referrals, find somebody you can work with who's already done some great work with other family members, other friends that whatever. And
Hmm.
then do some searching. Don't immediately accept the very first person you interview. I often tell people interview at least three
Okay.
people, and find out which one you feel you sort of connect with the best, kind of
Okay.
thing. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I
That's
hope
great.
I don't, we're already a little over time, and I don't want
Yeah.
to keep you too much longer, but I hope
Okay.
this was helpful and gave, you who, Anna, who are right here with me, and those of you who might be watching this replay later, I hope it's provided some insights. And
Yes.
I should have probably said this again right at the outset, right? I'm not an attorney.
Right.
And
Right.
I'm not giving you legal advice. I'm giving you input from my personal experience and what I've had to deal with. So you need to seek the appropriate advice from a professional to ensure that your unique situation, that you have got everything um, handled and set up the
Hmm.
way that you want it to be set up, and that you are comfortable with how you've made your arrangements. And I always tell everybody difficult conversations, yes, but have the difficult conversation when you're totally competent, able to express exactly what you want to see happen. And
Right.
then, go live your life, go
Yeah.
have fun, because you've
Yeah.
done the hard stuff, you got it done, you got it conquered. So
Hmm.
you planned for the worst case scenario, right? You've planned for the
Right.
worst case scenario. Great. Now
Right.
just go have fun. Go do what you want to do.
There you do. Go on
So
vacation.
yeah, go on vacation. Have a good vacation. Yeah, I love it.
That's
So on
great.
that note, we're going to sign off for now.
Okay.
Anna, thank you for being here.
Thanks,
Appreciate
Marcia.
it much.
Really
And
good. I really enjoyed it.
good, good. And we'll talk again soon, I'm sure. Thanks, everybody.
Okay. See you
Bye.
later. Bye bye.